your Divas division.
Look whose show you're on, sweetie.
I did it, you bitch.
I think every single diva should be lining up and congratulating me and thanking for everything I've done for them.
You're going to find out why I am the boss.
Kamusta mga kontrabida? Welcome to Turning Heel with Troy Gonzalez. I'm your host, yours truly. We're back with another episode of Who's That Girl? My interview series where I sit down and chat with women in wrestling from all around the world, both inside and outside of the ring. And today's guest is very, very special because I've sort of followed her stuff recently. She's worked with a lot of our previous guests, such as Ruby Roberts and Ashley Vega. So there's a quick hint. She's from the UK and she's only started wrestling a year ago in 2022. So she's sort of an up and rising star. And in case you haven't seen her stuff yet, go check her out on the WWE Network under Insane Championship Wrestling. You can check her out there. But I'm really excited to have her on. So, Kontrabidas, handa na ba kayo? Who's that girl? It's Daisy Jenkins. Hi, Daisy. How are
Hi.
you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm really excited to have you on. As I said earlier, I have been seeing most of your stuff online as well as on YouTube since you do work with Ashley Vega, Ruby Roberts, and other of the UK girls that I have been closely watching in the past few years. But I'm really excited to have you on. But before we do start, I'd like to give you the chance to introduce yourself. Who is Daisy Jenkins?
Yeah, Daisy Jenkins. I am a relatively new face on the Scottish wrestling scene. Still within a year of my debut, I've had some amazing opportunities and moments with a few more in the pipeline that I'm excited to talk about. I train at FPWA in Scotland, Fife Wrestling School, under Andy Roberts. So I'm very excited to talk to you about everything that I've been up to because I feel like there's loads to talk about.
There's a lot, and I feel like I know you've already been on plenty of interviews, but I feel like there's so much more that I want to learn about you. So I'm really excited to ask you those questions now. So let's talk about personal interests outside of wrestling. What do you do for your personal hobbies outside of professional wrestling?
Um, I think just sort of like the norm. I like to watch movies. I like to read books. I have a lovely little doggy that I like to take on nice walks.
Oh,
Hang out with family and friends, that sort of stuff. But wrestling does take up a lot of my time. So I don't
right,
have a lot of time for that stuff at the moment because I am focusing more on that side of things. But it's nice to get the time to do that when I do get a chance. So I do try to chill out, although I do find it difficult. But those are the kind of
right.
things that I do. Mostly like movies recently. It took me a long time to actually be able to sit down and watch a movie from start to finish and not either fall asleep or feel like I should be doing something else. So that's a really
Right.
good, like a good win for me at the moment.
All right, all right. So what type of movies do you usually enjoy? Like what genre?
See, to be honest, it's a bit of everything. It really depends on what type of mood I'm in. The movie that I watched recently that I just absolutely adored was The Banshees of Inisherin, the Irish movie,
Oh,
which has just been, well, it's got a lot of Oscar nominations, which proves how good
right.
it was. So if you've not seen that, I recommend it. It's on Disney Plus. Um,
Oh,
but
okay.
but to be honest, like I will literally watch anything. But I have been going back and watching a lot of 80s movies. It's a bit of inspiration for me, so I take quite a
Right.
bit of stuff from that. So I've been going back and watching those things too.
Right, right. Okay, I'll definitely check it out since I do have a Disney Plus subscription. Disney
Mm,
Plus
you should
just opened last November, I believe, here in the Philippines, so I'm gonna make the most
go.
out of my Disney Plus subscription.
Yeah, definitely.
Really
There's so much
excited.
good stuff on there.
Right, and with the whole WWE network having their own deal with Disney Plus as well, like it's perfect for me. So I'm gonna make the
Yes.
use out of my subscription.
Yeah,
I'm happy
definitely.
that also happy that you did mention like 80s movies and the whole 80s 90s vibe because I
Hmm.
believe you take lots of inspiration from this time, of course, as well since you were born in this time.
Yeah.
So tell me a little about like the whole aesthetic, the whole aura of the 80s and 90s time. Like
It just kind of came naturally, to be honest, because it is sort of what I like to watch. And so at the start of my training, I was finding sort of, I found confident, like I wasn't very confident. So I found that part like quite a struggle. So I found myself looking back on 80s women's wrestling, people like Sensational Sherry and Wendy Richter and Leilani Kai, that sort of thing. And through watching those women, like I kind of took little bits from them and they inspired me in a way that I hadn't really felt before. So it just kind of went from there, to be honest. And I think when I was growing up, I was at the age where like Saved by the Bell was like a big thing. So
Right.
I actually started watching that back again, and I was like, I just love the way that they dressed, you know. So like I've actually just went and bought like basically a whole new wardrobe. So like, and I say new, but it's actually old because it like takes me back
Right.
to that sort of time. But it's just I don't know. I think it suits me. It makes me feel like most like myself. Makes me feel most like Daisy Jenkins. There's so much inspiration that you can take from that time. You know, both in wrestling and outside. The sort of like you say, the aesthetic of it. And it's
Yeah.
nostalgic. You know, people love that. And if you can sort of trigger memories for people just
Yeah.
by kind of linking things together, then you know it's all part of the story and it's all part of what it is that you know we're trying to do, and it's about feeling emotion, and that's what makes me feel something is the kind of going back to that stuff. So it's what I try to put into what I'm putting out there as well, to try and make other people feel the same.
Right, right. And I feel like people are just always gonna constantly like sort of have this like vibe to just do a throwback or just pay homage to like the times say 10, 20 years ago. And I feel like
Yeah,
in 20 years from now we're just gonna look back on the year that 2023 or the 2020s have been. So yeah, but obviously the 80s and the 90s definitely have their own distinct vibe, and I'm really happy that you sort of incorporated that into your character. And speaking of, I love that you mentioned Sherry Martel earlier because I believe Sherry has been a very vocal like inspiration for you since I
yeah.
believe you had one of your gears inspired by hers. So tell me a little about Sherry and the whole gear situation, paying homage to.
So it kind of came around because of that character aspect and feeling
Right.
that I have such a big personality. It's very obvious
Yeah.
when I talk to people. But when I was wrestling, it wasn't there at all, and it was something that I really struggled with, and that it was confusing because I was like, how can I? You know, I want to be me. I want to be this big personality, and I really had to kind of look for inspiration in that way. So when I started, well, I'd watched Sherry before, but it wasn't until I sort of went down the rabbit hole of like looking at her stuff. She's just such a big character; you can't ignore her. So,
For sure.
you know, the makeup looks, the outfits, the gear, like everything, like every single thing was so well thought out. The way that she spoke and the way that she wrestled. So, um, the more I went down that that route of watching stuff, the more I got inspired by her. And one of my favorite matches is a match of Sherry versus Rockin' Robin. And it was like
Right.
Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, 1986 or something like that. Um, and I just like it's not a long match at all, but I was just so drawn to it, and I've watched it so many times just because of the dynamic between the two, and especially Sherry's character. But she was wearing this particular gear, which is the same sort of shape, so the full sort of unitard with the crossover in the back. And I just loved it, and I loved the pattern of it as well. But I didn't want to directly
Yeah.
copy it. So my brother-in-law is a graphic designer, who's also very much into 80s sort of throwbacks, and he does a lot of art that way. So I just asked him to roll with it, and that's what he came up with, and it's just absolutely perfect for me, to be honest. It really kind of, you know, the bright colors and that sort of stuff, and I think it's taken people aback a little bit because it's not something you see very often. I think to children I look like a superhero, and I
Yeah.
think to adults, like they get what I'm trying to do with the throwback. So no, it was a huge inspiration, and I'm now thinking that I want to get the pattern that she had. But we'll see about that.
Right, right. Yeah, I really love that you sort of like pattern your gear after Sherry's or like basically like that whole I don't know what the type of clothing is called, but like a singlet, is that what they call it?
Yeah, I
Like
think it's
a
like
bodysuit?
it's like a full, yeah, because it's like all full length
Right.
on the leg as well.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of like 80s workout gear, maybe.
I love that you wear something like that to the ring because I have not seen anyone have ring gear like that in a really long time. And I feel like it really helps you stand out. And, that's something that you obviously want as an in ring competitor is to stand up because there's just so many like women's wrestlers out there in the UK scene in itself. So it really pays a lot to stand out. And yeah, I don't hear people talk enough stuff about the women from Sherry's era, the Rock and Robins, the Alundra Blaze, so on and so
Mhm.
forth. And yeah, that was just a really important time in women's wrestling that I feel like doesn't get talked about a lot. But during that
Absolutely.
time, did you have any other favorites during the whole golden era of women's wrestling? Which Sherry was
Yeah, Sherry mostly, but Bill Nakano is
in.
another one. You know, I wish like I just wish that the exact match of Alundra Blade. Well, they had four, I think, like really iconic matches, but her emotion in things again was just incredible. But the matches between her and Alundra Blaze were just exceptional storytelling, and those are probably two more of my favorite in terms of technical aspect as well, and they were very good. Then there was is it the jumping bomb angels,
Yes, yes.
just incredible. And then I've actually started going down a bit of a rabbit hole now of British 90s women's wrestling.
Really?
Um, yeah, it's exceptional. It's kind of like World of Sport type stuff, but you don't like. I'd never seen any videos of women doing it. It was all kind of Fit Finlay and that sort of thing, Regal. Um,
Yeah.
but the women were incredible as well, and I don't know their names as well yet because it's really hard to find like good quality videos. But
Yeah.
no, that's something that I've been looking into as well. But going back to the original question, probably the next one would be Bill Nakano, I think.
Well, Nakano, definitely another woman who doesn't get enough flowers. I
Hmm.
feel like she still deserves that Hall of Fame spot because if Alundra can make it, well, Nakano
Yeah,
better make it sooner or later because she just has the exact same contribution that Alundra did, as well as the other women. But yeah, let's sort of jump into the present from the past. Let's go to the present, and I believe the thing with you being a wrestling fan, and I feel like a lot of wrestling fans have this phase where they fall out of wrestling and then they fall back in love with it after some time away. And in your case, I believe you fell back in love when the 2018, the first ever Women's Royal Rumble came into play. So
yeah.
tell me a little about how important this match was into making you love wrestling
Yeah, so when I watched wrestling when I was younger, I started when I was 7, so like 1997, and it was because my brothers would watch it, and then my mum and dad didn't want me to watch it, and then I just
again.
decided that I was doing it anyway. And then
Right.
when I became a teenager, like I just didn't feel like there was really anything for. I just stopped watching it. I guess like there wasn't really anything that would ever make me think that it would be something that I could do. It was good to watch, but never something that would suggest that it was something for me. But 2018, I think personally, I was working a job where I was working 60 hours a week. I didn't really have anything. I was at a bit of a low point, and I'd kind of followed Ronda Rousey. I'd followed UFC for a little bit, and I'd heard that she was going to WWE, and I was like, well, that's a bit crazy. Like, what's going on there then? Like,
Right.
there must be stuff going on. And then I noticed that it was the first all women's Royal Rumble. And then, first of all, I thought, wow, that seems pretty late for it being the first one. Um,
Right.
but then the second thought was, okay, well, if she's going into it, like, and it's a Royal Rumble, surely there's 30 women. Like, let's see what this is about. So watched it, absolutely loved it. Like, it was just an instant connection type thing. And then I was just obsessed with it from then. And, I watched it every week. Still just as a fan, like I still hadn't thought that it was maybe something I could do yet. Um,
Yeah.
but the more that I watched it, and then I went back and watched everything, the girls in NXT, and how they went how they moved to the main roster, and I went back and watched all the sort of Bellas and AG Lee and all that sort of stuff too. Paige, like, so I just caught up on it all essentially, and then that's when I was like, oh yeah, this is for me.
I love that.
Yeah.
See, I'm really happy like you said that the women's Royal Rumble, the first ever, inspired you the most to like pursue wrestling because the day that that happened, I was in school, and when I got home, I just could not take my eyes off the women's Rumble match, let alone it being the main event. Because I feel like it was just so special with the fact that women from different eras, the Divas era, the current era, the Attitude era, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, there weren't really much of the golden
Yeah,
era
it
featuring
was
like
probably too
Alundra Blayze.
late.
Right, probably too late, but never say never. There is a Rumble coming up, and Alundra
There,
was on 30, so fingers
I
crossed.
know. Imagine, I
We'll
would
be
lose
there.
it.
I will wait for your reaction. I'll probably tag you or something. But yeah, I feel like that match was just so special to so many people, including women's wrestling fans, and to see someone like you get that extra push of motivation to pursue wrestling out of it, it's a really great story to hear. But yeah, how different was the women's Royal Rumble from any other matches that you've seen in wrestling? As to like, why was this the one that pushed you to pursue wrestling?
It just felt special, didn't it? Like it
For
made you
sure.
feel something. And I think, like, especially at that time, just from, like the little bit that I've said, like, I was working so much and I didn't have anything to focus on. I didn't, the emotion wasn't a thing that I felt a lot, it was just go, 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 go. And I remember, like seeing the looks on their faces and how hard they'd obviously worked to get there, um, was emotional. It made you feel something. And then the follow on
Right.
from that, like hearing how special it was and seeing how special it was. Yeah, it was the emotion. It was the having something that made you feel something. Was the main thing.
For sure. So yeah, hopefully it was honestly really hard for future Rumbles to follow up 2018,
Yeah, it
but
was because
so
it was
far,
exceptional.
right, but so far they've been hanging in there. I just hope this upcoming one gives us even more surprises. I'm really
I'm
excited to
hoping
see.
that this one's going to be the best one yet, to be honest. And I think it has the potential to, because there's
Uh,
people who have been out with injuries and stuff like that, and it seems like everybody's back, bar a couple.
right,
So
right.
hopefully, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Hopefully we'll see. And now let's talk about going to wrestling shows. Now I've also heard that you've attended multiple wrestling shows whenever they came to the UK or in Scotland. But now in the present, you also go to wrestling shows as a wrestler, but sometimes you get the rare occasion to attend wrestling shows as a fan still. And I've heard from a very lovely lady, a colleague of yours named
Yeah,
Ashley
thank
Vega, that you guys actually hit the road a lot. And a quite recent one was when you guys went to see Mickey James, in which Ashley, of course, probably fangirled a lot. And Ashley told me that you actually go to wrestling shows a lot together on the road. So I want to ask, do you guys have any interesting or funny road trip stories that you guys might want to share?
I don't know. Like it's just we just have fun, Like that was a particularly fun one because I think it was the first we'd been training so hard, and I'd had like such a busy year up until that point as well. And I actually drove back from that show the next day and went straight to ICW, which was like a four
Oh,
and a half
wow.
hour drive. Um, so it was still very busy, but it was nice to take that time out and just sit back and watch. And especially because there's so much going on in England, you don't get to see it that much. So there were people that we'd never seen before that were just incredible. Um, so it was amazing, and it was amazing to see Mickey James. I meet her and then get to see her in the ring. I think that was very special for Ashley, but I thought it was great as well.
I
But
love
we
that.
did have a lot of fun. There was a lot of like funny parts of it, but I don't know if I could remember what we were laughing about because I think we just laughed about everything.
Right, right. Usually if it's like good memories, it's really hard to remember particular stuff because during
Yeah,
the moment itself, you were probably enjoying yourselves like too much. But yeah, that's the
yeah,
whole fun of having fun. So
yeah.
yeah, let's sort of talk about Daisy Jenkins in the UK scene. So obviously there's so much talented women in the UK, let alone in Scotland. You have yourself, You have Ashley Vega, Ruby Roberts, Emily Hayden, Ellie Armstrong, etc., etc. What I want to ask you is, how would you say Daisy Jenkins separates herself from the rest of the pack? What makes you unique?
I think it's my style. Um, there's not really any. I don't. Well, there's not many people who do the same. I think because of my inspiration, I found my inspiration from a different place. So I do try to
Yeah,
do things differently, and I try to work out how my style works with other people as well. That's really important to me. I think just my energy, like I say,
yeah,
I've got a big personality, and I'm really glad that like it's now starting to translate. And it's the adrenaline when you're out there as well. It brings up my energy even more. So I think Ruby described me as a tiny ball of energy, and that's probably the best
she did.
description that, and I couldn't really describe myself any other way. So that was perfect from her. I think it's that. I think I come out with a big smile on my face. I'm genuinely happy to be there and feel the moments and do the things. But I think, yeah, my people have picked up on the style aspect, and I'm trying to kind of work out what that means. But I think that would
Right.
probably be my answer.
Right, right. I mean, I feel like it explains itself. The energy, the high speed you do in the ring. I mean, I've seen you do cartwheels, springboards. What else? You do this really, really cool arm drag, which is sort of like a modified 619. Rey Mysterio could never hold a candle to you, but
I'm
it's
trying
it's
to,
really
but
hard
yeah.
to like come up with new stuff in wrestling because I feel like almost everything's been done. So to see like really innovative moves from you, including the specific one, I believe it's sort of like a famouser, but like your opponent rolls over and it becomes a leg drop. So you sort of come up with these really innovative moves. So how's the process like with coming up with these new moves? Do you think of them in your mind, or do you just go with it in training?
Well, what's old is new. I think it's trying to bring things back. So looking for moves that suit my height as well. I'm 4'11" and a half, so like I'm very small. So there's only certain things that would suit me. So it is that sort of high flying. I'm trying to get more confident with that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's just kind of coming up with looking at what other people have done, and it is usually stuff from um from the past and just kind of tweaking it slightly. Um, but yeah, like I take a lot of inspiration from a few people, so I'll keep going back to them to kind of keep it consistent. I'm just trying to work things out. I think I've went through, you know, multiple different moves at this point and decided that it's not
Right.
for me or whatever. So I'm just trying to feel it out. But I'm really happy with this stuff. Yeah, I'm really happy with how things are going in that sense. Um, yeah, we're getting there.
Right, right. I mean, I feel like, and for me personally, when it comes to baby faces, it's a really like it's easier to vibe with them when they have a relatively high flying like wrestling style because I don't know, it just seems very flashy, very entertaining to watch, and you feel like it just gets the crowd really hyped. So yeah, hopefully this is the start of something even bigger for you when it comes to jumping off the top. Who
Oh,
knows?
we'll get
We'll
there
see.
this year. We'll do
We'll
that.
get there. All right, all right. We look forward to it. Now I did mention earlier, Ashley Vega, who has been a close worker with you. I believe you actually had your first win of your career over her because I know you guys have been going back and forth.
Yes.
As much as we love Ashley, you guys are sort of in a frenemy situation.
Yeah.
Sis is a really amazing heel. So how important was it to have this big win over someone who you worked really close with?
It was a very special moment. I think with it being with the person that I was in the ring with the people that were there for the show that it was at, FPWA, the school that we train at, has just started promoting our own shows. And they're very, very special. It's the start of something special. The venue is incredible. The effort that everybody puts into it, the crowd, the people that come along, the people that support it. It's it's the start of something for sure. And I think it was towards the end of the year, so it was the start of December. it was the end of a year that I could only have dreamed of. And I don't, and I say that like very seriously. Like I could, the year that I had last year could only have been a dream in my mind if you told me about it in January, for instance. Um, so yeah, I felt every single piece of it, and it's probably one of my most special moments. But yeah, it was. I don't know how I can describe it any other way. It was, yeah, it was just exceptional.
Right, right. Well, of course, your very first win must have felt amazing, but obviously you have lots of wins ahead of you, so the UK
Oh,
scene better
hopefully.
watch out. And speaking of watching out, someone in particular has to watch out for your energy very, very soon because I believe you have an upcoming match against former NXT UK star Danny Luna this
I
coming
do.
March at the FPWA versus New Wave Wrestling Academy show. So how are you preparing for this match?
I am training so hard. Like I thought I was training hard before, but I am laser focused on that. Not just that, but the other matches that I've got in the pipeline. Yeah, it was just, it's 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 something. It's going to be something, and I'm going to make sure that it is. But I'm just, yeah, laser focused, working really hard. When I think I'm working hard, I'm working harder. Just work harder all the time. There's no other real way that I can prepare other than making sure that I do my best. So
Right, right. Well, I look forward to that match. Danny Luna's sort of more established in the UK scene. Obviously, as I said, she's already been on NXT UK. She's been in the ring with some of the greats over in the
mhm.
UK, but she hasn't met anyone like you yet. So she better come prepared. But yeah, I really look forward to that match. I hope it's going to be available on
Yeah, I hope
online
so too.
somewhere,
I
right? So
hope so
that
too.
we could give it a watch. But yeah, I'm really excited to see it. With that being said, do you have some quick words for Miss Danny Luna ahead of her
Well, I think you described it perfectly, didn't you? Is that you've never met anyone like me.
match? That's
You can't
right. That's
prepare for the unknown. That's the thing. That I'm still an unknown quantity, so you can't really prepare for that. You can bring it. You can bring everything, but the unknown is the unknown.
for sure. All right. Best of luck to both ladies. Of
Thank
course,
you.
I already know who I'm rooting for, but I know either way it's gonna be a great match. With that being said, I want to ask you: it's the new year, it's 2023. What are some of your goals in your wrestling career for this year?
Yeah, it's been quite a difficult one, to be honest, because I made goals last year and then just absolutely smashed them, which is a great thing, obviously. Um,
Right.
so to be honest, I just need to keep going. That's my goal. Is to keep the momentum up and stay true to myself, and continue to work as hard as I know that I'm capable of, and know that I want to. I want to have more of the incredible moments that I've had the opportunity of having so far. I want to work with more people. I want to work again with some people I've already worked with. I'd love to debut in England, Wales, Ireland. I think that would be really good for this year if that was able to come to fruition. But I just want to keep enjoying it. Like I'm having so much fun. I love every single minute of it. So that's really my goal, is just to make sure I enjoy it, because I think I got inside my head a little bit last year. Everything happened so quickly. I didn't really feel like I was prepared for it potentially,
Yeah,
and I maybe didn't enjoy it as much as maybe what I could or should have. And I don't regret that, because I think I reacted to it the only way that I knew how, and that was to put my head down and work and work and work. But I do need to take a step back and enjoy it and kind of feel those moments more, I think. So that's my ultimate goal, is just to make sure I'm enjoying myself.
for sure. Really hope you do get to live in the moment every once in a while because, wrestling is a really tough industry and sometimes the moments pass even before you can like recognize it. So,
Yeah.
you're pretty
Things go
young
so
into your
quickly.
career. Yeah, you have plenty of adventures ahead of you, and I'm really excited to see them. But with that being said, I really want to thank you for coming on the show, Daisy. I'm not sure if you know this, but earlier this year, earlier this year, I put out a list of like wrestlers I wanted to interview on my show, and you were one of them. And I'm really
I
happy that I
did
finally get
see
to
that.
Thank you. I'm happy I get to tick off someone at least. It's sort
No,
of
I'm
weird.
so glad that we got the chance to talk.
Right, me too. I've really been looking forward to speaking with you, considering that you're still up and coming, and yeah, there's no doubt that you have a bright future ahead of you. But with that being said, before I let you off, would you like to plug in your social medias and any other upcoming promotions that you might have to work with? Any bookings? Feel free to talk about.
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram, daisy.jenkinspw, Daisy Jenkins on Facebook, and daisy.jenkinspw on Twitter, although I'm not very good at Twitter. So if somebody wants to teach me how to use it, then feel free. Um, upcoming, I've got a match against Emerson Jane next Saturday at Reckless Intent for the Reckless Intent Women's Championship. After that is against Danny Luna, just as you mentioned, at the FPW versus New Wave show. And then there's a couple of other things that are spiraling on in the
Ooh.
background that will be announced very soon, but a couple of other things that I'm very excited for. So very grateful.
All right, all right. We'll be sure to check them out. You guys check out Miss Daisy Jenkins' work. You guys can find her on the WWE Network, ICW, YouTube. There are some matches over there, so be sure to show support for Miss Daisy. But as for me, for the latest news on Turning Heel with Troy Gonzalez, be sure to follow the show on all platforms where you can listen to your favorite podcasts on by checking out my link tree. That's linktr.ee/Turning Heel Podcast. So thank you for all your support, Contavidas. Once again, Daisy, thanks for coming on. I hope you
Thank you so
enjoyed your
much.
stay here on the show.
Thank you.
All right, with that being said, stay safe, everyone, and see you in the next episode. Bye.